Dear Prakash. Ye anila premadana karuna pracho Jayanila premadana karuna pracho Ena Prabhu Kotagela Acharya Thakur Kahamara Swarup Rupa Kahasanatan Kahadasa Raghunatha Patita Pavan Kahamara Bhatta Yuga Kaha Kaviraj Eka Kale Kota Kela Goranataraj Ashane Gativa Mata Annale Pashiva Goranga Gunera Nidhi Kotagele Pabo Se Saba Sangira Sanghe Ekoilo Vilas Se Sangana Paya Kande Narotamadas Ye Anila Premadana Karuna Pracho Ena Prabhu Kota Gela Acharya Thakur Read the translation. Saparshada Bhagavad Viraha Janita Vilapa lamentation due to separation from the Lord and his associates from Narottam Das Thakur's Prarthana. He who has brought the treasure of divine love and who is filled with compassion and mercy. Where is such a personality as Srinivas Acharya gone? Where are my Srup Damodar and Rupa Goswami? Where is Sanatan? Where is Raghunath Das, the savior of the fallen? Where are my Raghunath Bhatta and Gopal Bhatta? And where is Krishnadas Kaviraj? Where did Lord Gauranga, the great dancer, suddenly go? I will smash my head against a rock and enter into fire. Where will I find Lord Gauranga, the reservoir of all wonderful qualities? Been unable to obtain the association of Lord Gauranga, accompanied by all of these devotees in whose association he performed his pastimes, Narottam Das simply weeps. Do you think you could get that notebook there? Sorry, I forgot it. No, hook. So today is the disappearance of Devananda Pandit. So we'll just read about him. Thanks. So it's short, so you have to, we have to pay very close attention, because if we don't pay close attention, we'll just miss it. So, of course, even if it's long, if we don't pay close attention, we'll miss it too, but especially short. Okay, so living in Kulia, thank you. Living in Kulia during Sri Chaitanya's pastimes, Sri Devananda Pandit gave professional readings of Srimad Bhagavatam, tainted with Mayavad philosophy. One day, Srivas Pandit heard his Bhagavat Katha, began crying, and fell to the ground. Becoming disturbed by this display, the foolish disciples of Devananda threw Srivas out of the assembly. By silently observing this misbehavior of his disciples, Devananda committed the Hati Mata Aparad, the mad elephant of offense of blaspheming a pure devotee of Lord Chaitanya. Later, by the mercy of Akreshwar Pandit, an intimate devotee of Sri Gaura Roy, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Devananda understood the divinity of Sri Krishna Chaitanya and surrendered to him. The Lord pardoned his offense and blessed him with bhakti. He serves in Krishna Leela as Bhauguri Muni. So yeah, this is instructive, because he was reciting, Devananda Pandit was reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. And it's interesting because although it was tainted with Mayavad philosophy, somehow the Srivas Pandit, he would go and hear him. And one day, he was listening to Devananda Pandit, and he became ecstatic, and he fell on the ground and began crying. And then Devananda Pandit's disciples threw him out of the assembly hall. So, like for example, if someone was to start crying here, and we just throw him out, right? Throw him out into. So that's what happened. But silently observing this misbehavior of his disciples, he was implicated in the offense, Devananda. So that's something for us to reflect and consider, that they say that silence is agreement. Huh? Compliance, yeah. Now, of course, it's hard to say that any particular thing applies absolutely, right? But generally, silence is seen to be compliance if we don't speak up. Just like they say, what do they say? That what you say will be held. What is it? in the court of law, right? The officer says, what you say can and will be used in the court of law. So we could say what we say and what we don't say, we have to pay. What we say and what we don't say, we have to pay. So Devananda, he didn't say anything when his disciples misbehaved. So if we have disciples, if we have people who were guiding, we have to say something when they're misbehaving or out of line, especially when they're misbehaving out of line in relation to a pure devotee or devotee of Krishna. So, and then what happened is Rakeshwar Pandit, he, by the mercy, by the guidance, by the instruction of Rakeshwar Pandit, Devananda Pandit, he understood Lord Chaitanya's position, and then he surrendered to him. So he was pardoned for this particular offense. So that's what's Devananda Pandit is mainly known for. That's his biography. So, of course, there's other things to say about him, but we'll just go to the Bhagavatam now. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, 5th canto, entitled The Creative Impetus, Chapter 10, Maharaj Rahugana meets Jad Bharat, text 23. Shasta Bigopta Niripatihi Prajanam Yaha Kinkaro Vai Na Pinashti Pishtam Sudharmam Aradhanam Achutasya Yad Ihamano Vijahat Yagaugam Dharm? Dharm. All right. A.M., right? Dharm. Dharmam. Shash. What is it? Oh, there's no dot under the S. Shasta. Shasta Bigopta Nirpati Prajanam. Ya Kinkaro Vaina Panashti Pishtam. Swadharmam Aradhanam Achutasya. Yad I Hamano Vijahat Yagaugam. Shasta Bigopta Nipati Prajanam. Ya Kinkaro Vaina Pinashti Pishtam. Sadharmam Aradhanam Achutasya. Yad I Mano Vijahat Yagaugam. Shasta Bigopta Nipati Prajanam. Ya Kinkaro Vaina Pinashti Pishtam. Sadharmam Aradhanam Achutasya. Yad I Hamano Vijahat Yagaugam. Tut, therefore, may unto may. Oh, whoops, sorry. That's 24. Okay, so we'll try it again. Shasta, the governor. Abhigopta, a well-wisher of the citizens as a father, is the well-wisher of his children. Nirpatihi, the king. Prajanam, of the citizens. Yaha, one who. Kinkaraha, order carrier. Vai, indeed. Na, not. Panashtipishtam, panashtipishtam, grinds what is already ground. Swadharmam, one's own occupational duty. Aradhanam, worshipping. Achutasya, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yet, which? Iharmanaha, performing. Vijahati, they are released from. Ogam, all kinds of sinful activity and faulty action. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. My dear sir, you have said that the relationship between the king and the subject, or between the master and the servant, are not eternal. But although such relationships are temporary, when a person takes the position of a king, his duty is to rule the citizens and punish those who are disobedient to the laws. By punishing them, he teaches the citizens to obey the laws of the state. Again, you have said that punishing a person who is deaf and dumb is like chewing the chewed or grinding the pulp. That is to say, there is no benefit in it. However, if one is engaged in his own occupational duty as ordered by the Supreme Lord, his sinful activities are certainly diminished. Therefore, if one is engaged in his occupational duty by force, he benefits because he can vanquish all his sinful activities in that way. Purport. This argument offered by Maharaj Rahugana is certainly very effective. In his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 124, Srila Rupa Goswami says, Tasmat kenapyupayena mana Krishne niveshayet. Somehow or other, one should engage in Krishna consciousness. Actually, every living being is an eternal servant of Krishna. But due to forgetfulness, a living entity engages himself as an eternal servant of Maya. As long as one is engaged in Maya's service, he cannot be happy. Our Krishna consciousness movement aims at engaging people in Lord Krishna's service that will help them become freed from all material contamination and sinful activity. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 4.10, Vitaraga Bhaya Krodha. By becoming detached from material activities, we will be freed from fear and anger. By austerity, one becomes purified. and eligible to return home, back to Godhead. The duty of the king is to rule his citizens in such a way that they can become Krishna conscious. This would be very beneficial for everyone. Unfortunately, the king or president engages people in sense gratification instead of the Lord's service. And such activities are certainly not beneficial for anyone. King Rahugana tried to engage Jadbar in carrying the palanquin, which is a form of sense gratification for the king. However, if one is engaged as a palanquin carrier in the Lord's service, that is certainly beneficial. In this godless civilization, if a president engages people somehow or other in devotional service or the awakening of Krishna consciousness, he renders the very best service to the citizens. Om Jnana-timirandasya Galanjana-shalakya Chakshulanmadatamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Kadidavachalam Pangam Langayate Girim Yakripatamaham Bande Shri Gurun Diditarinam Vancha Kapdribhashta Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, the word being this verse quoted by from Srila Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Tasmat Kena Upayena Mana Krishna Niveshayet, that somehow or other one should fix their mind on Krishna. Stop doing that, please. Stop. One should fix their mind on Krishna, because so some way or other. Now, it says in a suitable way. So, in other words, there's suitable ways or there's recommended ways to fix our mind on Krishna. Prescribed methods of living and thinking and acting. Just like Kamsa, he was very Krishna conscious, but that wasn't considered a recommended way to be Krishna conscious, to always be thinking, okay, how am I going to kill Krishna? Just like some people may hate the devotees, and they might always be thinking about the devotees, how they want to beat the devotees up, how they want to destroy the temple, how they want to, right? So they're thinking of devotees, or they're thinking about Krishna or Krishna conscious, but it's in a non-recommended way. So our acharyas, they explain that we could become Krishna conscious in so many ways. I mean, people become Krishna conscious, like it says, Kubja, she was feeling lust for Krishna, which was not pure. There was some selfish desires there. Now, but still, she became a pure devotee. And anyways, there's so many different examples. So, but our acharyas say these different emotions, or these different ways we become Krishna conscious, or through lust, or through like that. There's that story of the person, he hears that Krishna is a very beautiful boy and has lots of jewelry, and he's a thief. So then he goes out to the forest to find Krishna. He finds Krishna there, and Krishna's decorated with jewelry and all different types of things. And so the thief just asks, which is quite interesting because usually thieves don't ask, they just take. But he asked, so I guess he was a cultured thief. And he said, "My dear boy, you have so many nice, jewelry, necklaces and armlets, rings, this and that. You have so much nice jewelry. So can you please give me some of it?" And Krishna doesn't wear any costume jewelry, gold and jewels, and most expensive, right? So, what did Krishna say? He said, well, I can't do that because, my mother will become angry at me. Sorry, I can't do that. So, but the thief was so enchanted by Krishna's beauty that he just became purified and became a devotee. So, his motive was impure, but then through association with Krishna, he became pure. So, some way or another means that somehow we have to fix our mind on Krishna. But the acharyas say best to exclude the emotions of fear and hatred towards Krishna, which is quite interesting because Abrahamic religions, they are very much based and living on fear, the fear principle. There's a lot of fear, which is quite amusing because when people they come from Abrahamic religions, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, and then they come to Krishna consciousness, sometimes the fear principle is still very much there. There was one devotee in Los Angeles, I'm not sure who it was, but Tirthamaj was telling me that in his office he had a canvas painting of the hellish planets. Specifically, there's a really graphic one. I think it's right here, actually, because we're going to be arriving in the hellish planets. I mean, studying, theoretically. Hopefully not arriving, but yeah, this isn't the one. But there's one. It shows the whole graphic scene, what's going on in the hellish planets. The types of punishment and torture that are going on there. So anyways, this devotee had this canvas painting in his office. Usually you have like whatever, you have Krishna playing a flute, or you have, the cowherd boys or something. But he had this painting of these hellish. So the devotees asked him, "Oh, why do you have this?" And then devotee said, "Oh, well, just a reminder, kind of." That I should be Krishna conscious, So, anyways, that was his. But it's very much, it's extremely present in the Abrahamic religions. Fear that if you don't do what God wants you to do, or if we don't do what God wants us to do, HELL, hell, you're sent there. You're punished heavily. So, forever, yeah, most people's conceptions forever. So that's quite scary, right? It's like, hey, you don't follow God forever. It's not just like you get a term, but it's forever. Now, many intelligent people, rational people, logical people, they say, oh, this doesn't make any sense. Why do I have to suffer forever? I mean, in some cases, some of these atheists, from a particular point of view, they're vegans. They're, they recycle everything. They don't hurt anybody. Means they're not physically attacking anybody. They might be very nice guys, not even verbally abusing people. They take care of their kids and their family. They have a electric car for the right. Anyways, so many things, right? But they don't believe in God. And they may not, it's not that every atheist hates the idea of God, and right? They just, some people, they just don't believe. Simple, they just don't believe. And then on that basis, although he may be in many ways much nicer than a person who's going to the church or the temple or the mosque or the synagogue every week doing their religious rituals, in some ways he may be better. But still, that person they're elevated, means the church, synagogue, temple, mosque goer, and that other person goes to hell forever. So a lot of people, they don't like this idea because it doesn't make any sense. And yeah, it's true, it doesn't. Hare Krishna. When I was in Istanbul, which is 99% Muslim country, around the town, there's 16,000 mosques. A lot of mosques, big and small. But it's a lot. And some of them are like huge. Like, I don't know if the Muslim people or the Islamic people will like it so much, but when we're building our TOVP temple, and we say, and part of the advertisement is that, yes, the TOVP temple, TOVP, right? Temple will be bigger than the Blue Mosque in Istanbul, which is quite big. So, and there's like, showing how much bigger it will be. But there's, huge mosque, and then around town, everybody's milling around, shopping, this and that. They start calling out in Arabic, I believe, and telling everybody it's time to pray. So then people stop, they go in and they pray right in the mosque. But anyways, while we were there, walking around town, I was with two devotees, and we walked by a person who was chanting the Quran. He was reciting, not exactly chanting, reciting. So, it was very beautiful. So then of course, I didn't understand what he was saying. So then I asked that particular devotee, I said, "What is he saying?" And that devotee started to laugh, and he said, "Well, he's saying that for those who engage in illicit sex, they should be beat with sticks, beat badly. Anybody who engages in illicit sex should be beat. And aside from them being beaten, they should be disqualified immediately from marriage. Means no one should marry them. But there is some allowance for those who have illicit sex to marry each other." Anyways, that's what it said. So, but it was intense. Yeah, beat him. So that's what he told me. We just walked by. It was very brief. So then I was talking with this devotee who comes from a Muslim background. And he was saying that it's very fear-based. And he was saying how he was just not satisfied because he was trying to read the scripture, and it was saying that if you don't do this, you're going to be punished. And he kept on reading that. And he was going to the mosque, and he was praying daily, and he was following all the principles. But then eventually became very dissatisfied, and he was just tired of hearing all this, if you don't do this, you're going to be punished. So then eventually he got a book, Science of Self-Realization. And he said it was tough on him because he was reading Srila Prabhupada's book, Science of Self-Realization. Yeah. He got it by, he was learning English there in Turkey, and his English teacher was a devotee and was talking to him, teaching him English. And then somehow or other, because this devotee that I'm talking about, Nrsimha Krishna Prabhu, he's quite, quite a serious devotee. So he was very inclined towards God conscious. He really wanted to be God conscious. So he was open. And then plus his experience of just all this fear and punishment, that he wasn't, and he wanted more explanation. So anyways, his English teacher gave him a Science of Civilization, and he started to read it. And he was just extremely inspired. and convinced, but not immediately. It was a challenge because Prabhupada was challenging him, in that he was challenging him, all of his feelings of being a pious person, of being a religious person, of being a good, person, was being challenged by Prabhupada, because Prabhupada is very direct, he's very straightforward, and he's not mincing words, and he's cutting a lot of nonsense out, all of it, and giving a very clear idea. So, but eventually he accepted it. And then, Shivaram Swami, who is his spiritual master, he became initiated by Shivaram Swami. I asked him, anyway, it's kind of a side note, but I asked him, because I asked him, how did your wife become a devotee? And he said that she used to have a vegan restaurant there in Istanbul. And somehow or other, and they're seeing Krishna Prabhu were doing programs and this and that. And she heard about it. And but at that particular time, Shivaram Swami was encouraging Nrsimha Krishna Prabhu to get married. And then he's like, well, Guru Maharaj, what am I supposed to do? He's like, there's no devotees, in Turkey. What am I supposed to do? So anyways, eventually she became a devotee, and quite a very serious devotee. Then eventually they married. They're both disciples of Shivaram Swami, heading up the center there. But and also they translated the science of self-realization into Turkish, I think, recently. So it's there. And I was a little surprised that they didn't change the cover, because it's four-armed Vishnu, but they didn't change the cover. They just kept it. Sometimes they change it, like what's his name? Satyanarayan Prabhu. He changes the book covers to kind of suit the local likes of different cultures. So, anyways, they didn't change it. They printed it quite a lot. Also, Bhagavad Gita. They're distributing. So, Shivaram Swami said that if you distribute, because Hungary is 13-hour drive from Istanbul, but Shivaram Swami said if you distribute one, I think I already said this, right? One Turkish book, that's 400 Hungarian books. But Nrsimha Krishna Prabhu is also mentioning to me, maybe if the Arabic, just like Arabic books are considered more points, he was wondering if Turkish books can be considered more points. So I don't know if we have to talk with Satyanarayan about that, or Prabhu. Huh? Mayapur? Yeah, so he was asking if I could try to make some petition. Anyways. It was, but he was very happy to find a path that wasn't fear-based, namely Krishna consciousness. So our acharyas say that, quoting this verse from Rupa Goswami, so our acharyas comment on this verse is that we should find the suitable ways to be Krishna conscious, which excluding fear. So Gaudiya Vaishnavism means we get very close to Krishna. We get very close to the spiritual master, in the sense, by the spiritual master's mercy. Like for example, deity worship. I mean, how much closer can you get? Of course, you could be right in front of the deity and Maya, unfortunately, but provided we're Krishna conscious, we get really close to Radha Giridhari, face to face, when you're addressing them, for example, because it requires you to get really close. Or like chanting the holy name, or whatever we're doing. We're meant to become very close to Krishna, not in a fearful way, but out of affection. And to become absorbed. So just a few last things about this. There's a story that there's a girl and she's very attached to a boy. Go figure, right? So she's running to go meet her lover, and she's running through the forest, and then there's a Brahmin there, very clean, sober, composed, and he's got his Brahmin thread. Right? He's pulling out his Brahmin thread, about to do Gayatri, meditate on Krishna. So then this girl's running through the forest, going to see her lover, and she just knocks right into him, bang, and she just keeps on running, and he's completely disturbed. He's going, I can't believe this uncultured girl. I'm chanting my Gayatri, and how did she do that? And he kept on, playing it over in his mind. So then some time passes. He's still upset, and then she comes walking back through the forest, peaceful and kind of, and she, oh, dear Brahman, nice to see you, and please accept my obeisances, and then he's wondering, why is she treating me nice? She just bumped into me some time ago. Why is she? And then he said, just some time ago you ran and you bumped into me, and you disturbed my Gayatri chanting, and now you're walking back, very nice, and why did you bump? And she said, oh, I bumped into, I'm so sorry, I didn't notice. I was in such a hurry to go see my lover, I didn't notice. Please forgive me. So it's interesting because she was very absorbed to the point like practically everything else didn't exist, including that Brahmin that she bumped into. But for the Brahmin, who's also supposed to be absorbed, he lost his composure, he lost his absorption in Krishna based on being bumped in by this girl. So just like, for example, if someone's in a church or a temple or a mosque or whatever, and they might be very bored, like in whether they meet on Fridays. I think Islam, they meet on Fridays. Christians, a lot of them meet on Sundays. Seventh-day Adventists, they meet on Saturdays. But whatever day they're meeting, they're in church, they're hearing a sermon, they're singing, and then some people are bored. They're like, oh, great, when is this going to end? When am I going to be able to leave and go watch a football game or whatever? Because a lot of times on Sunday, football game. So how much were they really there? They're just thinking about football and nachos and whatever they're gonna, whatever they're gonna eat while they're watching a football game. So how much were they really there in the church or other temple or wherever? So how much really benefit did they get? So to the degree we're able to absorb ourselves, to that degree we get the benefit, more benefit. Just like Rajendranath Prabhu, I remember one time we listened to a Prabhupada lecture here in the morning, and all the brahmacharis were there, and then he went around and asked everybody, okay, what did everybody hear? I don't think Dravida Prabhu was here, he was somewhere else. But he asked all the younger brahmacharis, what did you hear? What do you remember? So then the brahmacharis, I remember this, I remember some are kind of struggling, remember something, but Rajendranath Prabhu, I was really surprised. He repeated the whole lecture, like the whole thing practically. So it was quite amazing, very. So another short little story is that Prabhupada would tell the story that there was a Brahmin, again, picking on the Brahmins, but Brahmin was doing his duties and his rituals and his meditation, whatever he was doing, studying, reading, yagyas. But then right across the street, there was a house where there was a prostitute's house. So the Brahmin would be looking out the window, and he'd see the prostitute there, and then there'd be a customer walking by, and then the prostitute and the customer would go into the house, and then the Brahmin was thinking, oh, this is so gross and disgusting, and this low-class prostitute, and terrible, right? Just criticizing her in his mind. And then the prostitute, which Prabhupada said there's a number of actually prostitutes in history. Prabhupada mentioned some of them in the purports of the Bhagavatam, who are devotees. He mentions one prostitute in Kolkata, famous one, and she built this temple. Anyways, so this prostitute, she was always thinking, looking over at that Brahmin's house and thinking, oh, he's such a nice Brahmin, and he's worshiping Krishna, and he's so absorbed, and I wish I could be that absorbed, and he's so saintly and wonderful. And she was just glorifying him. So Srila Prabhupada said that the immoral or degraded acts that she was engaged in, the Brahmin had to suffer for. And whatever activities the Brahmin was supposed to be benefiting from, that prostitute actually got the benefit. It was quite interesting. So, so yeah, we should try to become absorbed in Krishna consciousness somehow or other. So I wanted to discuss a little bit more about some of the other things, but that kind of took the time. So does anybody have any questions, comments?
I have a question. This idea of this fear-based, with all of the fire and brimstone preaching in Western Church, and I guess it's there in Islam too. And we're not fear-based.
Yeah.
We're love-based.
Yeah.
So that attracted, what's his name, Nrsimha something?
Nrsimha Krishna.
Nrsimha Krishna. Prabhu, yeah. So I'm not sure it's as cut and dried as that.
Yeah.
Because we're going to come to this hellish planet section, and there's a lot of brimstone there.
Yeah.
And a lot of good amount of fire too. And and the sixth canto, when we go into the sixth canto, we find, of course, Parikit is very anxious to try to see how these people can avoid it. So that's obviously part of our whole idea.
Yeah.
So, and even in the Bhagavad Gita, you know, Krishna's Urdvam Gachanti Sattva Jaganya Gunagritista. Jaganya means horrible, down, you suffer. And he talks about hell in the 16th chapter. So there's an element of that.
Yeah.
But clearly it's not supposed to be, we're supposed to graduate from that.
Yeah.
But it can still motivate, can it, to get people on the path.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's considered to be for persons who are not so, like for example, if you tell somebody, you kind of give them intelligent instruction. Okay, hey, do this and do that, and it will be good for you and beneficial for you. And then they're just not getting it, and they're just like breaking all the laws and crime, and then eventually, you know, such people have to be locked up or beat. You know, in some cultures, you know, they're beaten or locked up. But a lot of the times, somehow or other, those people are, you know, their intelligence is not in order. Like a lot of the criminals, they're just, you know, in some ways they're intelligent, maybe, but in other ways they're very unintelligent. Just like, I remember there was this, it was actually, anyways, there's this man I knew of, and he tried to rob a bank. Okay, it's very unintelligent, first of all, to rob a bank. Like nowadays, it's just very difficult to, even if it wasn't difficult to do, it's unintelligent to do, but he tried to rob a bank with a bicycle. He was trying to like, so then he went to jail, which it's just not intelligent. And then he went to jail, and then he came out, and he did the same thing. So, well, yeah, I think it was just on foot this time. So it's like, it just, like Prabhupada said, there's different ways of learning, right? From hearing, from experience. Yeah, hearing is the best. So yeah, there is some element of, okay, there's the hellish planets, there's karma, there's reincarnation, birth, death, disease, and old age. All these different things are there. But for a religion just to be completely fueled on that, like that's it, practically, that's not a sign of, to have to preach like that to people. It means they're just not, I mean, so yeah, as Javita Prabhu was mentioning, it may be some motivating factor for us, but ultimately, our surrender to Krishna, ultimately speaking, shouldn't be fear-based. Like, all right, Krishna, well, I guess I'm going to get up for Mangalarti because, I don't want to, But we get out of for Mangalarti, we chant our rounds, we do everything we do, ultimately for the pleasure of Krishna, ultimately for out of an expression of love, not out of fear. So, but yeah, it's true. There are elements in Krishna consciousness, and even if you were to say we've transcended to a degree the fear element, right? Maybe you could say we're just, but still understanding the what do you call the repercussions of not surrendering to Krishna. Understanding that, we could say, oh, well, there's a lot of people in trouble then. We should try to help. So anyways, that's something. Okay, Vijay, Prabhu?
One Christian was saying it's not so much that they're God-fearing,
Yeah.
but they fear displeasing God, which is something that we, as in the Hare Krishna movement, should have a bit more of,
Yeah.
fear of displeasing Krishna. So many devotees have come and gone. So there's, Prabhupada said one of our diseases, we don't have enough fear of Maya.
Yeah.
So we should
Yeah.
have that in consideration.
Yeah, the main thing, Srila Prabhupada said we should fear Maya. So that's the way to use this emotion for upliftment, is to fear Maya. And we should always fear Maya. Like, from now on, we should fear Maya. So that's important. It really depends on the, group of Christians we're talking about. There's many groups, there's many different aspects, understanding of it, and I don't mean to, generalize it or something, but largely it's seen there, this fear. But we may speak to maybe more liberal Christians, like in my view. I also grew up in a Christian family, but in my particular view, this person's comment, we don't fear God so much, we fear displeasing Him. I would say this is obviously an more advanced level of Christianity, a more advanced Christian. Because if you were to do go to what do you call, like a poll or something, you go talk with a bunch of people, we may see that, this fear aspect is there a lot. Not just fear of displeasing, but just fear. So, but yeah, we should also fear displeasing. Means, like, you fear displeasing the spiritual master, you fear displeasing Krishna. So it means we should positively try to please them and know exactly what that means. So, yeah. Just like Jayadvaita Swami wrote that book, Vanity Karma. So it's quite a philosophical work, and it's written based on that, the most philosophical book of the Bible, Ecclesiastics. So it's a Krishna conscious commentary on that ecclesiastic section of the Bible. But many commentators have studied that, and at the very end, a lot of people were quite disturbed by the conclusion of the writer of this ecclesiastic section of the Bible. And some people think that it wasn't even him who wrote that conclusion. It was somebody else who added it. Because the writer was very philosophical in so many different ways. He was questioning, the meaning of life in so many different ways. But then at the very end, the conclusion was fear God and keep His commandments. So it was like fear, just fear God. Which again, there is aspects of that, but yeah, there's a great book actually, Jayadvaita Swami's book, the Ecclesiastics. So, all right, does anybody have any last?
If there's no other one, just one last one. This Ecclesiastes, this book, Vanity Karma, Maharaj had me read it through, just to find
nice.
little mistakes, and I found a few little things. But after I finished it, I had the feeling from reading, because it's one thing after another. This, he's finding it. This, doesn't have any meaning. I can't sustain this. It's like, and I felt, I commented in a class once, I felt like I was reading the Forest of Enjoyment chapter,
Yeah.
which we're coming up, which is
It's great, Chad.
how horrible it is, one thing after another. But never got to the part where you can resolve the whole thing and
Yeah.
and go back to Godhead.
Yeah.
And it's common in the Christian writings where you can, or philosophical writings, to figure out just how meaningless this world is and how nothing means anything, but they don't have the solution. They don't have to come to the point of what means something, how to go, resolve the whole thing. And that's what Krishna consciousness gives us. But there's plenty of this, I was just thinking, so much of Prabhupada's preaching, he's preaching in the West, where many people are Christian backgrounds like that, or as you say, Abrahamic, which includes Jewish and Islam too. And so oftentimes, if you listen to the lecture, he's emphasizing this point of use the human form of life, because birth, old age, disease, and death, you get thrown, you lose it, you go down, and you'll suffer for so much. In other words, he's using that to try to impel people to read the book, investigate Krishna consciousness, chant Hare Krishna.
I mean, Prabhupada was educated in Scottish Church College by Christians. And specifically, there was a few Christian professors that Prabhupada regarded in a fatherly way, actually. Like, he had a lot of affection for them. And some of them were quite fire and brimstone in their preaching. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was also, had a lot of fire. But Prabhupada, when he visited, in Chamasundar's book, he visited some monks. And Prabhupada went there, and they were vegetarians, and they were, very nice monks. And they were very happy to see Prabhupada, and Prabhupada did a program there and spoke, and Prabhupada was happy with them, they were happy with him. Prabhupada said, from organization, Christianity has a lot of organization. Of course, they've been around for many years, but of course, some people wouldn't. The Mormons, some people wouldn't consider Christians, but the Mormons, they have 51,000 worldwide young men and women preachers going out at this point. And not only do they have 51,000 preachers, but it's not just like in America, or they send people from America all over the world, and they train them. And like, for example, hey, you're going to Mexico, we're going to teach you Spanish. We're going to have a course, teach you Spanish, send you down there. You're going to do a 2-year term. And it's not just 51,000, but there's constantly a new generation coming into it. I mean, imagine if they did that all over the world with devotee children. I mean, that'd be really good. And they do follow principles. I mean, they don't follow the principle of not eating meat, but the missionaries, they're following other principles, and they're out there preaching, and so.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, that's some Mayavad stuff going on. Yeah. All right.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Prabhu, can I ask the last question? Do we have time?
Yeah, if anybody wants to leave now here, they can leave. It's getting a little late, but yeah, you could ask.
Okay, Prabhu, very nice class. Thank you. I have a quick question. You talked about Brahmana and the prostitute example. So is it, I didn't understand, is it not good for Brahmana to be in that situation? Then he could get absorbed, or how did that? It's dangerous. I didn't understand that.
Well, I mean, the Brahmin could have moved somewhere, right? I guess. But the prostitute got benefit, so from the Brahmin being there across the street. But means she was always thinking about how great the Brahmin was and how Krishna conscious he was. But yeah, I mean, that's not so much commented as an aspect of the story, but I guess for fluffing out a little bit. Yeah, I mean, Prabhupada said we shouldn't go to places that are extremely tamasic or rajasic by nature and try to give them Krishna consciousness. Means if we're honestly, it's going to threaten our Krishna consciousness, we have to be careful. So, like for example, if someone was attached to raves and taking ecstasy, then if somebody goes, yeah, great, there's a rave in San Diego, Brahmacharya says, there's a rave in San Diego, let me go down there, I'm going to distribute some books and I'm going to do some preaching, and then, but they may just fall into that activity again. So yeah, we have to be careful.
Thank you so much. Yes, because our mind is not, not everybody's mind is so strong. So
Yes.
thank you.
All right,
Hare
thank you.
Krishna.
Hare
Very
Krishna.
nice. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Granted, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
So yesterday I was speaking to some young Muslim girls yesterday, and I was telling them how God is so kind, He's so merciful, and He doesn't let His sons and daughters rot in hell eternally. And I was telling them the principles of karma and reincarnation. And then all of them said, wow, that's interesting, and they just kept asking more questions. But eventually their family was pulling them away, and then I was trying to convince the last one, please take a book, please take a book. And then, yeah, like this idea of fear-based. No, she didn't take a book, but she was, she liked the idea of Krishna being, or God being kind, like that. But yeah.
They have an aspect, that idea that God is kind in Islam. I mean, most merciful, most kind and everything. It is there. So not saying it's not there. So that's like in the Quran, the most kind one. So, but yeah, I mean, maybe further explanation from the Krishna conscious point of view of, He's not going to send you to rot in hell forever. That, may be enlivening to certain people. Like I was on book distribution one time. I have been on books before. But I was out doing shop to shop in Adams Avenue, wherever it was, and I walked into a tax return or whatever tax office place, and I approached this lady working there, and I tried to give her a book, and she said, no, I'm not into it. I said, what happened? I don't know, I usually don't say this, but I said, what happened? You don't like the concept of God? And she said, yeah, I don't like the concept of God. I said, well, what's your concept? Do you have like a concept that God's going to send people to hell forever, this and that? She said, yeah, I do have that concept. I said, well, this concept is completely different. It's, Krishna is most merciful. There's nothing like that. And she said, oh, okay. And she took a book. She gave a donation. So.
So how, I understand karma and reincarnation, that is a very logical explanation. But how does our health fit into in the equation? Health, our description, hell.
Well, we're going to be discussing that more in later, because we're going to be going through a bunch of chapters describing hell soon. But how does it come in karma reincarnation? Well, we're in this planet. We do immoral things, terrible things. People do, or we do, whatever. Then yeah, we could go to hellish regions and suffer. That's, as you could say, like a karmic thing.
But it's for example, it's so long. I know it's not perpetual, but it's for every hair, tens of thousands of years.
Well,
yeah. You have a burger and you're boom.
But the thing is, time is different. We're eternal. The soul's eternal. So even it's 10,000 years, or however long it, ultimately in reality, in eternality, that's not that long, but from a fear-based perspective, it's an inclination, right? Not to. It is pretty long. Sure. We'll be discussing more of this. Don't worry. You're gonna get your full fix of this coming up very soon. Okay. Hare Krishna.